Honor and obey your parents. Well, how old-fashioned is that? Well, Jesus made it even more important than just obeying the rules. Jesus said, honor your parents. Good morning, and welcome to 755 Live. For about 5 minutes, you'll hear all about easy-to-remember soundbite versions of what Jesus said. And the point is to help you experience life to the fullest, the Jesus way. Today's Jesus Said from our Bible plan at bible.today.church comes from Matthew 15:4. But for some context, we're going to read verses 3 through 6 today from Matthew 15, reading from the New Living Translation, where Jesus replied, "And why do you, by your traditions, violate the direct commandments of God?" Now, before we go to verse 4, Jesus is talking here to the religious rulers of his day. And he's saying that they're violating God's commands just by their traditions. Verse 4, for instance, God says, honor your father and mother, and anyone who speaks disrespectfully of father or mother must be put to death. Now, before we go to verse 5, that's how serious God takes rebellion. Okay? Thank God that we're not under the Old Testament law, and so we don't really put people to death. But here's what the Pharisees were doing. But you say, it is all right for people to say to their parents, sorry, I can't help you, for I have vowed to give to God what I would have given to you. In this way, you say they don't need to honor their parents, and so you cancel the word of God for the sake of your own tradition. Now, the Pharisees had bypassed the heart of the rules. They actually were making things easier on themselves by making up excuses to God's rules. Now, a little more detail about this thing about honoring your parents is in Mark 7:11, where it's actually called korban, which means there was this tradition that was an excuse where you could give without actually giving. And what they would do is, instead of taking care of their parents with their resources, they would say, well, I can't give this amount of money because I have actually committed to give it to God. But they didn't actually have to give it to God. They only had to say that it was set aside to give to God. And then they made an excuse and didn't honor their parents. Now the question here is, do we make exceptions to God's commands by our own traditions? You see, the commandment about honoring your parents is actually not really about parents. The heart of that matter is about God, submitting to authority. And submitting to authority is not about the authority, but it's about God. And how can I, as a parent, expect my children to honor and obey me if I don't honor and obey my Heavenly Father? How can I, as a church leader, as a pastor, expect people to respect me and honor what I say if I don't honor and obey my authority or those over me? Now, reading on in Matthew 15, Jesus gets even more directly to the point. In verse 7, he says, you hypocrites, Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you, for he wrote, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is a farce, for they teach man-made ideas as commands from God. I mean, Jesus is talking here about man-made lip service. And that was the problem, in that they had turned the commandments of God into their traditions and actually didn't follow the heart of the matter, but were just busy making up excuses to make their worship easier. And Paul tells us and warns us, as he did Timothy, that in the last days that difficult times will come. In Timothy 3, he says that people will be lovers of themselves, that they'll love money, that they'll be boastful, arrogant, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, unloving, irreconcilable, ungrateful. All of this stuff, without self-control, savage, opposed to what is good, reckless. All of these different things. And in that list is disobedient to parents. You see, this is more than just about obeying and honoring your parents. It's about being under the authority of God and showing the kind of respect and heart for the rules, and not just making up excuses to do away with what God says by our own tradition. I think that's what Paul meant when he said that in the last days that people would maintain an outward appearance of religion, but deny the power of God. And he said, avoid people like that. So who do you honor? Who do you respect? The principle is what Jesus was talking about when he said, honor your parents. How can you put that into action today? Thank you so much for listening. If this is meaningful to you, it really does mean a lot when you like it, when you share it, when you comment. Thanks for checking in this morning. Teresa, good morning to you as well. I hope that you all have an amazing day, and I hope this time together has helped you live life to the fullest the Jesus way. And remember, follow Jesus today. Love first.